Good evening, White Sox fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the Future Sox pardon me, podcast, Hot Takes and Heaters. My name is Danny Miller. With me tonight is my partner, as usual, Jacob Thome. And if you're watching us live, you will also see that we have brought on our good buddy, Mr. Ian Eskridge. How you guys doing tonight, Jake?
Good,
Why don't
hanging in
you?
there.
Yeah.
No
How's
problem.
things, man? Since we last talked.
Good. Been a busy week just with radio stuff, but other than that, had a fun weekend calling basketball, and yeah, back at it.
Right on, right on. How you doing, Ian? It's been a minute since we had you on here, but happy that you could join us this evening.
Yeah, things are good. I don't know, weird last day. I was personally, I wasn't expecting the trade to happen until mid-year, just because I didn't think that they'd get what they wanted, or at least a couple months into the season. I was hoping for a comp pick, but there is no comp pick to be found in the return. So here we are.
Yeah, yeah. I was kind of hoping for the same, but I guess we'll go ahead and break that whole thing down this evening. Obviously, we are in the wake of the Luis Robert Jr. trade here on Wednesday, January 21st. And we've all had roughly 24 hours or so to kind of look this thing over and maybe decompress a little bit. And I've had some, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. Like my entire take on this thing might be a hot take, and we'll get into that as we go tonight. But Ian, since we have you on as our guest tonight, why don't you give us your initial response or your initial kind of feeling towards this whole thing?
Well, like I said, I wanted the comp pick, and that did not happen. Um, I have been underwhelmed with, I had seen requests from a lot of people saying, oh, we should trade with the Mets. And, part of the return people had mentioned was Acuna, and he's just not been as much as you would have hoped if you were a Mets fan up until this point. I mean, he did have a couple of big hits in the playoffs, but, um, tendency towards more of ground balls in the last year have kind of, you know, derailed his value at this point, once a top prospect. So
Yeah,
Southside Jeff mentions that Moncada just signed with the Angels, so no Acuna Moncada. Not that I was expecting
Cunha
that.
Makata. I mean, I guess that would have been fun for about, I don't know, 10 seconds, but yeah,
Yeah, right.
I'm actually glad that that is not a thing for
Yeah.
anyone.
I'm not going to complain about that. That's for sure.
How about you, Jake? What was your initial thought when you got the news that Luis Robert Jr. had been traded to the Mets yesterday evening?
Yeah, I think like Ian said, I mean, it was so funny because there had been talk about the rumors of him being dealt for so long, and then it kind of comes out of nowhere, and I thought it was surprising that that's what they went for. It makes me kind of wonder that like what was the offers beforehand. Um, Obviously, the league doesn't think very highly of Robert, which isn't a surprise. I mean, he's been hurt and not good the last few years. There's not like a secret player here. Obviously, you look at 23 and you're hoping that you can get back to the level, but that's a lot of hope compared or paired with a $20 million contract. So um, I don't know. I don't mind Acuna. I'm actually more interested in Pauley, but we'll see kind of what happens there. Obviously, he's a recent draft pick, so a little bit of a way to go. Coming out of college, some interest there, but yeah, I don't know. Um, Kind of shocked that they made the move then.
Yeah, my initial reaction was we had been listening, for months now. I mean, honestly, for close to 2 years now, that the White Sox were not going to deal Luis Robert Jr. unless they got the package that they felt was fair, or close to fair. Uh, my initial reaction was, Luis Angel Acuna and Pauley were probably not at the top of that list, as far as what I was expecting when they're saying things like, we're not just going to trade him to dump salary. Um, there's I feel like there's some things left to be desired in this trade, but I also feel like they probably had their reasons for doing so. And I'm gonna hold off on my points of that for just a little bit here, because like I said right at the top of the show, my take on this thing might be the hot take of the evening for me, because it's pretty much the entire feeling I have is a little bit of a hot take. So um, let's talk a little bit about what that means when we talk about salary dump, right? Luis Robert Jr. obviously had his $20 million option for 2026 picked up recently, and a lot of folks were a little perplexed by that move. In the time that had happened, and ever since that's happened, it's been a bit of a roller coaster as whether or not he was going to be traded, or the rumors between, at one point there was like 8 teams that were showing interest all apparently at the same time, and we really weren't sure what those returns were looking like, and what the offers were. But the last few weeks, maybe last month or so, after signing Murakami and K and some of these other guys, that things had been moving around a little bit. It felt like Luis Robert Jr. was more likely to stick around, as Ian was saying, till probably maybe the deadline. And you kind of hope that Luis puts together a decent first half of the season so that you can get the most out of him. And then you look at the fact that there's a second 20 million. I'm sorry, I cannot speak right now. I don't know if you guys can tell I'm a little congested. Getting a little the flu that's going around, so I'm hopped up on meds. But there's obviously
Goofballs.
the what's that?
Hopped up on goofballs.
Yeah. So um uh obviously there was the second option year, also valued at $20 million on Luis Robert. So I think it was probably something that made more sense, at least to us as fans, that if he can have a decent first half of the season, you might be able to sell him for a little bit higher value than where he was currently sitting, with the option, especially for the team that takes him on next, to sign him for that second $20 million option if he were to perform. Uh, that just felt a little weird that it happened now, right? It feels weird that after all this time that has gone by, and more folks were kind of jumping on the wagon of he may not get traded until the deadline. Do you guys have anything to say about the timing of this? And we'll go ahead and start with Jacob.
Yeah, I mean, I had said this on the podcast a couple times. I thought there was probably about the same value you're going to get for Robert now as you were at the deadline, unless he was hurt. And so I felt like if he played good, the trade value would rise. But again, if he's hurt at the deadline, you can't move him. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think this comes.
Oh, Jacob is potatoing.
Mm, mm, yep, looks that way.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think there's anything weird with the timing personally. I mean, it's just kind of one of those things where you've got they're trying to clear up space on their payroll, and as it's mentioned in the comments you mentioned, they saved $22 million, 20 on his salary and then 2 million on a buyout, assuming that they did buy him out in of 2027. um and it also kind of frees up the it frees up the spot in the lineup. I mean, not that Luis Robert was your problem in that lineup. I mean, if we're all being honest here, Benintendi being in the lineup is probably the most thing that you would think about when you think about a logjam in the lineup. He's kind of one of those things where he's making $15 million a year, and so you feel like you got to get him in the lineup every day, but you got that DH spot where you're trying to figure out Teal and Caro, but you also don't want to put Benintendi in left field really because he doesn't play left field all that well. So you go ahead and get rid of your best defensive center fielder, your best outfielder. Just the availability question is huge, and while his returns have, his offensive returns have been a little bit of a letdown the last couple of years, he still did play center field well. So I don't know. I don't know as if I'd necessarily say that the timing's all that weird. It's just, I thought that they were waiting for a comp pick, and it appears that they were more trying to figure out flexibility in the payroll. Because in his Zoom call today, Chris Getz did say that he did free up that money and he is free to use that money. So we'll see where that money goes. I mean, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you bring that up, because that to me is probably the biggest part of this whole deal, is that the White Sox did not have to send any money over to the Mets to make this thing happen. And when you talk about freeing up $20 million plus the $2 million, like you said, at any in a potential buyout situation, it just it gives them that flexibility to be able to do some more things. Jake and I have actually brought it up on the show a couple times in the last few weeks that, obviously there are reports out there that, we don't know how true they are, but it's been whispered that the White Sox want to keep the payroll somewhere between 80 and $90 million on the season. So we'll see what comes of that. I'm going to hit one of these comments in the chat here. Doveman says, spend that money on tradable bullpen pieces and flip a deadline to get the prospect package we were looking for. That's one route. I'm not opposed to that whatsoever, but I think I'm going to offer up some other takes on that. I'm sure Jacob and Ian will at some point in the show. Wolf wants to know, Ian, he's a question for you specifically. Who's the best center on the 40-man currently?
So I'd say, I mean, if we're talking defensively, and I assume that that's where he's going with this, I would say it's probably Derek Hill defensively, just because he's got the most time in center field. That said, Acuna's, he can play some center field. He goes in on the ball well, and he has good lateral movement. I mean, I don't know that he's necessarily better than Derek Hill. As far as offensively, I mean, I'd say probably Acuna is probably better than Derek Hill, but I mean, Derek Hill has been kind of, kind of bad offensively his entire career. Maybe Brooks Baldwin is probably the possibly the best offensively in center field, but defensively, he's at this point of his career, he doesn't have enough time in center field. He's more of a liability in center field than positive. So,
Roger that. So, saying that, Jake, obviously, Ian brings up the fact that we've got a handful of guys that can play a fair defensive center field, right? And Benintendi is looking like he's going to be, one of your corner outfield, probably left field, because we all know he doesn't have the arm for right field. I mean, he can barely hit a cutoff man from half deep in the outfield. So it's a bit of a noodle, bit of a wet noodle that we got going on out there. What would you say is your best defensive alignment in the outfield right now? Obviously, and I'm saying, right now, because we've obviously opened up some payroll flexibility. Maybe there's a right fielder or another possible center fielder where they can bounce one of these guys to right field on the radar, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But as of right now, what would be your best defensive lineup in the outfield?
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna go best, I think you move Benny to DH, but that's not gonna happen. It's hard to kind of plan around that with him out there. I mean, I don't know. There's a couple of interesting pieces. Like Derek Hill is obviously the best, I think, defensive outfielder on the team. I don't know if Tristan Peters does anything for anybody. Um, but like
Not
you're
yet,
kind of
anyway.
stuck in a situation where like Everson Pereira's got to start. Like Kelnick's not good. Like they don't have a good defensive center fielder. I mean, Acuna's good defensively. At least the speed is there. I think the arm has looked decent in Venezuela. I'm really not kind of
I want
tuned
to
in
say
on that. I
he's
know.
slightly above average on the arm.
Yeah,
It
I
was
know
like a
he's
55 grade, if I'm not mistaken, on the
moved
arm.
around a ton. So I think you'd put one of Pereira. I mean, if you're looking for strictly defense, it'd be Hill in probably right Acuna in center just because of the speed and the range, and then good old Benny in left.
So I'll ask you the same question, Ian. Where would you, as we stand at this particular moment, what would be your defensive alignment in the outfield? And I know it's a ridiculous question, but it's fun to kind of play prognosticator because I don't think that we're going to. He's like, it's not fun. It's not fun.
It's terrible. I would say
Uh,
probably. I would say probably. Man, that is it's just it's not a good situation. Probably Acuna in center, and yeah, I'd be Pereira in right field, I guess. And Andrew Benintendi on the bench.
Yeah, right.
Um, and then I don't know, like maybe Brooks Baldwin, maybe Jared Kelenic. I don't know. It's not exactly. Yeah, James tweeted out earlier today that the White Sox have the worst outfield in Major League Baseball. He's not far off if he's not correct. It's there are way more question marks than answers. That is for certain.
yeah, yeah. I can't agree more. Unfortunately, it's not something that I want to be in agreement with you guys. And the only reason I ask is because I don't believe that this is the way everything lines up before it's all said and done at the moment. I'm sure you guys both have heard some of the rumors. Obviously, like we said, Chris Getz kind of came out today and said that he has this availability now to be able to go out and spend that money. We've been talking about it for weeks about, obviously the needs are still probably one more starting pitcher that can eat some innings. You might want some back end bullpen help or, even middle of the bullpen help. Um, and then you probably want a corner outfielder that you feel comfortable starting on a fairly regular basis, or at least be able to platoon with one of these other guys, right? So I don't think that this is the way things kind of play out at the beginning of the season where we stand right now. Having said that, what do you guys feel about the rumors that the White Sox possibly in on Harrison Bader at the moment?
Bader doesn't move the needle. I don't know. You're paying a guy off of a career high season. The underlying numbers were bad. I mean, the defense is good, but I feel like Acuna gives that to you already, and you're. I'd rather spend the whatever it's going to cost him 10 mil to go somewhere else. I don't know. He doesn't blow me away at all.
Yeah,
Ian?
I'm not enthused. I've heard so many names in the outfield, and they're all
Doo doo.
nothing excites me. I've heard Conforto, Grichuk, Bader. I'm there's I've heard a couple more.
Verdugo.
Verdugo. Yeah.
Yeah, Verdugo. I mean, it's possibly the
Pardon me.
offensively the best one, but he's terrible defensively. Grichuk, at least he can play defense, and he's very good against left-handed pitching. But I mean, we're already talking about Pereira, Kelenic, platoon in right field at this point. I don't know what you get that's going to. I mean, you're looking at a guy who's probably going to be 30, 33+ years old, probably in most of these cases. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's Austin Hayes. I mean, it's a as they say, a poo poo platter of
Yeah.
outfielders out there. It's nothing great.
And the issue too is like you look in the system. I know this isn't a minor league show, but like there's not a ton of outfielders, especially in Charlotte. Or I mean, obviously everybody is in on Braden, but like that's one of three. They need three new outfielders. So yeah, I'd be interested to see. I mean, obviously there's anticipation that some of these shortstops are going to move to the outfield, but um, I don't know. There's just not a lot in the system outfield wise.
Yeah, I feel like any signings now with whatever remaining free agents are out there, they're just kind of lateral moves, right? Like I don't think anything really pushes the White Sox one way or the other. I don't think it really forces the hand of Will Venable in as far as making like lineup decisions or not having to make lineup decisions where he can just kind of plug somebody in and not have to worry about it. So that leads me to believe it. It's come up in the chat already a handful of times. So shout out to the guys that have brought this up. But I hate to even be talking like this and thinking about it. But where do we feel like this leaves the Braden Montgomery situation? Does it change things at all in your mind? Does it feel? Do we feel like he's more important now than he ever was before? I know I personally would like to see him continue to develop. I don't want to see him pushing for a starting spot right out of the gate at the beginning of this season because obviously he hasn't had a ton of time at AAA, right? We want to be able to.
None.
Well, that's the thing. He moved up 3 levels in a single season, and still you have to see AAA. So, like, I don't know if I feel good about that. And I know there's a lot of people out there calling for him to like, if he has a great spring, like bring him up. And I'm just not in. I'm not in the camp of doing what the White Sox used to do, of kind of forcing guys into situations and just grenading their development. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I thought Talkman made sense for Braden. I mean, if you're going to bring in an older right fielder, I think the earliest Braden Montgomery is going to be up as a trade deadline. I just don't think there's a route. I mean, Ian, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's going to start in Birmingham unless spring training goes incredibly well. So then you'd have to make another jump to AAA, get games. I mean, it's just going to be hard for him to advance anytime before the deadline, even at the deadline. I don't know if it's there yet. Um, so the only thing that this changes for Braden, I think, is that now that center field is open, he could play center instead of right. He was kind of penciled in to be a right fielder with Luis there. Now he could be your center fielder if you want. I think that's really all that changes for Braden going forward.
From everything I've seen of Braden defensively, he is destined for right field. He comes in on the ball really well, but his lateral movement isn't quite as good as I mean, definitely a step down from Luis Robert defensively. I mean, that's not saying that he can't play center field. He can. I don't. But I mean, again, I don't think it matters. He's not gonna. I don't think he's starting. Starting the season with the White Sox. I kind of think that he's going to start in Charlotte, but because of the AFL results and how he played in Birmingham, I would think that he starts in Charlotte and he does make his way up by June. But I mean, um, and Uncle Ted asked how much different is Braden versus Baldwin. I mean, defensively, Braden is in the outfield is a lot more comfortable. I mean, traditionally, Baldwin is more of an infielder who got put in the outfield because he has played a few innings there. But I mean, he's not naturally an outfielder. And obviously, there is some big power with Braden. I think that you're for both of them though. Both of them are still pretty young, and Baldwin gets some at bats, but he's not getting all of the at bats. So I mean, he's kind of in the same boat, And it's this is part of the problem of having Benintendi and Robert both in the on the roster was that they're eating up at bats, and you knew that neither one of them was going to be around for the you know next wave of talent, or the next 26-man roster that you're hoping to make a run. You knew neither one of them were going to be around. So, yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, you
yeah,
get at least this gives you a little bit more of a chance of getting outfield time for these guys and more at bats. But the more times you go out and sign these older outfielders to put a MLB level outfielder out there, it takes away at bats from some of the younger guys. So I don't know.
yeah. Definitely agreed. And Southside Jeff is brought up a question that it's been looming a lot here the last month or so. I would say Jake and I have kind of given our thoughts on this, and I don't think we fully 100% agree on our thoughts on this either, which is fine. I mean, this is a group of guys sitting around and kind of throwing some things at each other, and if we don't agree on everything, it's perfectly fine. Like you guys like to throw some stuff at us here in the chat sometimes too, which we appreciate. And by the way, I'm sensing a little carryover from the smack talking that was going on last week in the chat. So behave yourselves. It was funny for a while yesterday, but let's keep it civil, guys. Um, Anywho, your thoughts, Ian, on Kyle Teal being able to play a corner outfield position?
So, of your two catchers that have been rumored to play in left field or have been in left field, being Corey Lee and Kyle Teal, I would be more comfortable with Kyle Teal in left field over Corey Lee. That said, I don't expect Corey Lee to be here all that much longer. I would be shocked if either of Caro or Teal gets traded. If that happens, I will be upset with whichever one they decided to trade. But I don't think they're going to trade either of them. So, um,
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
with you on that one. Monster return or not, I think you got to hold on to both of these guys right now and give them. You at least have to know what you have with the two of them. Obviously, one not even having a full MLB season under his belt, and the thing is if you trade now, obviously the ceiling is pretty high or I should say the value is pretty high, just because of what I think the world believes they can do, but you never want to trade that kind of talent away. And again, it's been said over and over again by Chris Getz. He thinks that catching is gold. So as these guys build value, I believe they're both going to take another step this year, which I don't know how big of a step, but I think they will. I think obviously that just continues to build value. So if you do eventually trade one of them, it's going to behoove you later rather than sooner. So, James Hesterman, welcome to the chat. I had a feeling you would be in tonight. He says, "Welcome, Ian." James, as you all know, is the the man from the Facebook group known as Chicago White Sox Exclusive
Debating cage.
Debate. I'm sorry. Yeah, debate. Wow, I'm telling you, it's the meds, man. I'm all hopped up on Mucinex and Sudafed, buddy. So, anyways, yeah, I don't know. So, having said what we were talking about, maybe the availability of corner outfielders and what's out there, where do you see the money being spent if Chris Getz is going out there and saying, I have this available to me? And do you see him spending the majority of it or a fair chunk of it between now and opening day? And we'll start with you this time, Ian.
I mean, I think that they're going to go for a starting pitcher and an outfielder. Um, And I don't necessarily, I don't think that, I don't think that if you're going to spend that money, I think you're better off getting the best player and uh, and then living with whatever else you get. I mean, I don't know. I think there are many there's many problems here. Is that the White Sox obviously we're going to want to fill that spot with the best players that they can. Uh, I just don't know that doing the traditional White Sox thing of getting you know 4 free agents that'll fill $20 million instead of going and getting one great pitcher and then one that's an outfielder that's just passable. I don't know which one's better. It's you can probably get a bunch of outfielders for 5 million here. Get 2 outfielders, or get an outfielder and a $10 million pitcher, and then leave 5 million over. I don't know. It's a tough thing. I don't necessarily know which route they're gonna take. I would rather that they get something a top pitcher that they could trade possibly at the trade deadline, something like that. I don't think that any of the outfielders that they pick up are really necessarily going to do anything for the White Sox whatsoever.
Copy that. Jake, same question. I know you had some ideas on this. You probably wanted to get them out there, so let's
Not
hear what you got
really.
to say. No,
I mean,
I guess
you're
I'm
so late.
mistaken.
No, I mean I have an opinion. It's just not a good one. You're so late in the off season. Like there's not a ton left. Like I know
Not that there
everybody,
was to start the offseason, by the way.
right? Yeah,
But
not a
anyway,
very deep class, but like I don't know. Like what surprise? What makes you happy? Are you looking for like Nick Martinez on like a 1 year, $12 million deal? You could flip him at the deadline. I don't know. Like is Eric Fetty do something for you? He was horrible last year. Martinez was also horrible last year. Um, like there's a bunch of pitchers that are reclamation projects. There's some decent relievers that could be fun. And then there's a bunch of outfielders that again are kind of like the box. It's like it's broken, but could be fun to fix. That's kind of what's left. So unless you're going out and you're getting Framber, which obviously they're not, or like Geo, which again they're obviously not. Um, there's just not much left for them to go get other than stuff off the scrap heap. So um, yeah, who knows?
okay.
I want to get this out. The Gallon's being brought up in the and I get it, but like Gallon's got a qualifying offer, so you're gonna have to give. I don't think the Sox are in a position to give up picks on a qualifying offer. No way.
No, not in the. I mean, you're in the throes of a rebuild right now, right? Obviously, there are a lot of pieces that need to be covered, and I think that's a great point. They're just not in a place to be giving up picks because what we've seen the last couple of years is, especially not just the draft, but outside of the draft, this has been a regime that takes a different approach at signing international players. And during those periods, they're spending more of their money than they ever have, and they're getting more guys than they ever have to, kind of be able to get their eyeballs on some things and hope that you can pick out a handful of diamonds in the rough, maybe, and get some guys that could eventually make their way up and be someone. This is not the time to be giving up any kind of picks anywhere. Whether it be on comp picks or anything else. To be completely honest with you,
One more name I did want to bring up because it might be fun. Verlander's out there. He's really old. He's chasing wins. If
There's
nobody
no
else is
way.
gonna pick him up, Verlander might be fun. There's my last. That's
Yeah,
my like
there's no way.
insane out of left field take. Verlander
It-
might be fun.
is
Chasing wins.
Verlander the kind of guy that is going to be like the type of dude who can be a mentor? Because there
I
are
don't know.
there are some there are some rumors out there that he's not exactly the nicest dude on the planet.
I don't
Just
know.
saying. So I don't
The
know. I don't know if
only
that's
the
true. I've never met him. So
only
He's a
way it makes sense is if
traditionalist.
nobody else offers him a contract and he just wants to chase wins on the south side. He's like, I don't know, 40 away. Problem is he's not on a good enough team to chase wins. It doesn't make a ton of sense, but it would be fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say Chicago's probably not the place you come to chase wins. Let's just be
Nobody else is
honest.
going to give you innings.
Have to score runs for that.
Right. Yeah.
All right, I got a question here that I want to address in the chat. James Hesterman asks, does any of the and this is kind of this is not just him. I've seen a lot of this on Twitter/X. I've seen it on Facebook. A lot of folks are kind of contemplating whether or not Lenine Sosa is a goner with some of these moves. What say you, Jacob Thome?
He could be, but Acuna doesn't change that. Acuna's going to play outfield. He's going to center field. They need an outfielder, and he's fast enough to play out there. The range is good enough. The arm, not great, but good enough. No, Sosa could be gone, but not because of the Acuna stuff.
Ian?
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. I think he's gone regardless. I just don't know. We were actually just talking about this earlier. Elijah, James, and I, and Dylan were talking about this earlier today. And I feel like he's got the most value of the guys that you're willing to trade. Because his pay, his salary is going to be low enough. The bat's good enough. The problem is the guy doesn't play a defensive. He doesn't have like a great defensive position. You can put him at second base and he's okay. But
Right,
I mean,
serviceable,
other than that,
but that's about it.
yeah, and it's not even. I mean, just
may not even be serviceable, but it's
yeah. I mean, just
I mean, if you got a second baseman that's putting up 25 home runs, you can deal with a handful of errors. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's just the defensive aptitude is just not there. The base running aptitude is not there.
That's the big one.
He can swing it for sure. I just don't. We were talking like, what is his value? I mean, I don't even know what you would ask for, and even if you do, like, where are you going to send him? And what are you like? You want to get something back for him because he's one of the integral parts of your offense, I guess. He kind of had a bunch of big hits for the White Sox last year, but at the same point, what is it doing for you for the future? I don't know if anything. I was one of the main people who fought for him to get at bats, but the problem being is that yes, he can hit the baseball, which is what I thought he could do. It's just his defensive position has not been clearly defined here as to
and
where
the
he should be.
boneheaded base running plays are just. I had enough of that watching old Nicky Two Strikes and or whatever. Golly, I'm telling you, man, drugs are bad, kids. Drugs are bad. Yeah, the phenom that was a first round pick for the White Sox that apparently was going to have 3,000 hits and 10 dingers in his first season and is now clinging to baseball life if he has one at all. Watching those base running gaffes in his rookie season were absolutely terrible. But Lenine leaves something to be desired for sure. So, yeah, Nick Madrigal, Lenine Sosa. I don't know if you can compare the two, but the base running gaffes were absolutely atrocious. Either way you look at it. I've been waiting. We're a little bit behind here. I've been waiting to stick this one up there, but we do have a super chat from Emiliano Brito. Thank you as always, sir. He says, "Hey, fine shits. I say we just save that money till Ishbia comes in. Stock the farm system." I don't know. Honestly, it might not be the worst idea because what else is there? What else is there? And are the White Sox really going to, if the past tells us anything, are the White Sox going to spend big money on anything, before a potential lockout in 2027? And we've heard both sides of that story. Where yes, there's no doubt 100% going to be a lockout. And there's the other side of that coin that a lot of people believe there's no chance there's going to be a lockout. I tend to fall on the somewhere in the middle there where I do believe there's going to be a lockout. I just don't think we're going to miss a lot of time, if any at all, as far as regular season games are concerned. So, but yeah, I don't know, man. It's something that remains to be seen. But I am all about building the farm system. And I apologize. Here's another one from Emiliano. I'm just going to go ahead and get these up there. Thank you, as always, by the way, sir. We do appreciate the support. And even if you guys are out there that are watching and you can't do what Emiliano's doing with the super chats, do us a favor, go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe. It helps us with the algorithms and gets us more views in other places as well too. So we appreciate that. But anyways, Emiliano says Acuna is just another Miguel Vargas type deal? Question mark. Is
I
that a
would say
question?
more. I would say more like Curtis Mead, but yeah, same type of idea. Or Everson Pereira, honestly, is more on
Yeah.
the baseline. I don't think he's as good of a prospect as Vargas was coming over.
You
Yeah.
know, he was at one
Yeah, at
point.
one point, yeah.
I just he and this is a there are so many caveats here, but you did see that he just had a 4 home run game in the Venezuelan Winter League. So apparently he has kind of reworked his swing a little bit because he was hitting a lot of ground balls here. Is this going to be the Chuck Garfien thing where he says, "Oh, he did make a swing change that we're going to hear about through the entire year, like we heard with Vargas last year." I mean, so yeah, possibly this could be exactly like Acuna and Miguel Vargas, where the swing change is the thing that makes him useful. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Jay Hay says the Sox got fleeced. I don't know if they
Fleeced.
did. I don't know if they did.
I don't know if you get fleeced giving up $20 million.
I mean, the thing is so let's kind of look at this from the perspective of the Mets, and then let's look at it from the perspective of the Sox. The Mets took on $20 million for a guy who's been injured often in his career and has not produced anywhere near what he's capable of producing for the last 2 seasons. The White Sox, on the other hand, got an underperforming, you know, uh, you know, basically a top-rated prospect at one point in his younger years, and hasn't really put it together at the MLB level. And then we've got a pitcher who hasn't had an opportunity to prove himself yet, even though I believe he's 21, going on 22, coming out of college year before last. Is that correct? In Pauley?
I think
25,
so. I think
12th
he's
round pick.
23 now.
Is he? Okay, I thought, for some reason I thought he was a little bit younger.
Yeah, he's 22 and 26 days. So I was
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if there was a fleecing in one way or the other, either direction. I think it was a move for the Mets where they obviously knew they were taking on some risk, and they're kind of hoping for the better part of that risk to come to fruition. And the White Sox, I think, were just looking to dump salary, get an able body that can play the outfield because there are some holes out there, and maybe we can turn this pitcher into somebody who can be part of the organization later on, although that remains to be seen, because the biggest knock on him, and we can talk about Pauley a little bit between you guys. I don't know how you guys feel about it. Obviously he's got, a lot of people seem to think he's got some stuff, but the big knock on him is he's got command issues. So what are your thoughts? Especially, I'm going to go to you, Ian, since you are the prospect guy around here. What are your thoughts on Pauley and his potential trajectory?
I mean, he looks interesting. I've seen some numbers on him, and it looks promising. Mid 90s fastball and some crazy vertical break, and I mean, there's some stuff to dream on here. Again, as you mentioned, there's some command issues, and you've only seen him. He only pitched 4 innings last year. Because he just got drafted. So um, there's not really I mean, you can look at his college tape if you can find anything other than strikeout here and there, because usually that's all you see is in those quick highlight clips. But um, he looks like he could be something. But again, yeah, it's said in the comments here, lottery pick. We'll see what it is. Oh, Peralta to the Mets. There you go.
Yeah, kind of thought that might happen, but there you go. The Mets are obviously going for it.
As they should
I
with that owner.
mean, sort of.
So, I'm sorry. Was I not tongue in cheek enough on that? Was my sarcasm not
I mean,
obvious?
just I don't know. They let Pete Alonso walk out the door. So how much are they really going for it?
And scooped up the legend Luis Robert Jr.
Yeah.
So yeah, their outfield is questionable across the board. Honestly, I don't know. There's high potential for all of those guys, but there's risk with all of them as well too. So I don't know if. Yeah, I really don't know what's going on over there, but they got a owner that likes to spend money, and an owner who apologized to his fan base as the season ended last year about hey, we're trying to do some things, but I'm sorry it didn't work out, and we're gonna keep trying. But I honestly have no idea what they're thinking over there. To be completely,
Yeah. I mean, I'm not, really, I'm not the biggest guy on Bo Bichette personally. So their off-season moves, I question them letting Pete Alonso walk. I don't know if it's not, Bichette is not a replacement for Alonso as far as I'm concerned, but we'll see how that goes as the
no,
year progresses.
no, yeah. So I guess that's gonna, we're getting close to an hour here. We're a little over 45 minutes or so. I might as well throw out my take on this whole trade since I've been kind of biting my tongue and holding back and letting you guys drive the bus here. But my thing is, and a few of you in the chat will know, and maybe even one of the people on the panel here will know that I immediately said I thought this was a terrible trade. And I think you were in on that, Ian. Were you not when I said that?
Yeah.
My thought on this whole thing, and I get it. There's a lot of people that are like, let's just move on from Luis Robert Jr. He's the last piece of the last regime. Fine. Whatever. Let's dump the salary. And the whole time I keep hearing this, I'm thinking to myself, our payroll's at $87 million right now. And we have been trying to talk ourselves into this idea that the smaller market teams are driving the offseason right now. And everybody keeps saying the White Sox are winning the offseason, or one of the teams that are winning the offseason with an $87 million payroll. And Jake and we were in agreement on this. Maybe, some of these moves that some of the smaller market teams were making was to get ahead of this upcoming CBA negotiation and make it look like the smaller market teams and we're don't worry, we don't need a salary floor because we're going to spend. And my first thought at the end of this whole thing is we traded Luis Robert Jr. away and dumped his $20 million option after picking it up, by the way. Didn't need to be picked up, right?
Well, yeah, but
they trade this $20 million option away for Luisangel Acuna, which sure, he's got 4 or 5 years of control, whatever it is.
I think you have to look at this math though, is that what they did by picking up that option is they didn't pay $2 million for that option. So they didn't pay $2 million for that option.
You're right.
They agreed to pay 20 this year, and then there was 2 million also that they didn't have to pay on next year for buying out his option. So technically, they saved themselves $2 million by picking up that option, and then they got two guys for free.
Oh, I mean, you still have to pay those guys, but yeah, for
Yeah, not much.
yeah, not much for either one
And
of them. You're absolutely
they're at 81
100% right.
million and $20,000 right now.
So, at the end of the day, the reality is my take is we could have picked these. We could have picked up similar players for the money that they cost. You didn't need to trade Luis Robert Jr. You didn't have to sign Luis Robert Jr. to $20 million. And then, and I get what you're saying. Your math with the whole $2 million thing, you save that money. But at the end of the day, Jerry Reinsdorf, I just feel like for a move like this, and people are ecstatic that Luis Robert Jr. has gone because your owner is not willing to go north of $100 million on his payroll. That's what I take away from this at the end of the day. Your owner is a freaking cheapskate. Plain and simple. What say you? I see the gears.
Though.
I see the gears working. So, Jake, I want to hear from you because Ian's pretty much kind of put out there how he feels about that, and maybe he hasn't. Maybe you have something you want to add. I don't know, but what do you think, Jake?
Yeah, it's a bad owner trade, a good GM trade. I mean, it shouldn't have happened if you had a better owner, but unfortunately, Chris Getz is handcuffed by Jerry Reinsdorf. And so Chris Getz has got to work with what he's got to work with, and that's what he's got to work with. I don't know. I mean, I get it. It's your take is very common on social media, but at the end of the day, like if you're the general manager of the Chicago White Sox, you got to do what's best for right now. And unfortunately, you kind of have to get to wherever you need to get to be able to bring in guys or whatever they're trying to do. If there was a budget, like if this was potentially the move for Mune and it just took forever to get done and it had to be done, then sure, fine. I'd rather have Mune on the team than keep Robert around. But yeah, no, I mean, it's disappointing that you have to do this because Jerry's your owner, but nothing you can do about it, unfortunately, until Ishbia takes over.
Yep,
Yeah.
I got you.
I mean,
Southside Jeff says it's just Getz playing the cards he was dealt, and you're not wrong. It's just some of it's a bit perplexing to me. It's not even perplexing; it's just frustrating being a White Sox fan and watching the way that this team still operates. And in the beginning, I was a little tough on Getz. I've come around to him. I like what Getz is doing with what he's been given, but the fact remains he's not being given everything that he could use to his full potential. So I'm sorry, Ian. It sounded like you had something you wanted to say.
Well, I mean, you take the job with the White Sox. You know what you're getting yourself into. You deal with the constraints that you're given, and he took that job. He probably campaigned for the job while the other GM was still in the office, and knowing full well exactly what he was going to be dealing with when he got that job. So, I mean, and exactly as he says, it's a $20 million for somebody that you don't know is going to be available, and on a team that you don't expect to even go 500. Is it really worth the investment? Like, what's the difference between winning 70 games and winning 75 games at that point?
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely. All right. Well, we're about 55 minutes in. Before we wrap this thing up, do you guys have anything that you feel like you need to get off your chest? You want to get out there, Jake?
Shout out to Toss for re-upping his membership. I saw that earlier. We didn't get to it, so I wanted to give a shout out. Anything I want to get off my chest? No. Hot take. Sox signed someone this week.
Oh, there it is. It worked so many weeks in a row. So
I mean, technically they traded somebody this week. So I guess just the Sox bring in a new player. I don't know. Okay. Technically they signed whatever that minor league guy was.
Baruki.
Yeah, whatever. He's not a minor league guy. He has major league experience, but it's kind of a minor league deal. But certainly they signed someone. Anyway, that's all I have.
Anything you'd like to get off your chest, Ian? Anything you would like to touch on with this trade that we haven't covered already?
About the trade, no, not really.
What
I
else would
guess
you like to talk about?
the last thing I'd like to get off my chest is just that is the last guy of the initial the rebuilds core, and you look back on it and what a disappointment. Not one of those, not even one of those cornerstone guys from that entire core, not one of them even remotely worked out. It's other than like a small window of like a year or two. It's pretty sad, pretty awful.
Yeah. Would you even call it 2 years? Like 2020 was a 60
I'm
game
just saying,
season.
like Tim Anderson had like a good couple of years. I mean, Jose Abreu had some solid years, but when the entire thing, I mean, I want to look back now and the core of like Eloy, Luis Robert, Yohan Moncada, Jose Abreu, and TA. I'd like to see like how many of those guys, like how many games those five guys played together over that entire time. It has to be like the most minuscule of games ever by
Yes.
your core pieces of your team. It is
Yeah.
just
I mean,
absolutely
had they been
ridiculous.
able to stay healthy and stay on the field all together at the same time, we might not even we might have had a different, outlook at all of this. It might have been a completely different result. I know during the time of Rick Hahn's regime and, going back to like 2018 when things were really moving on that last rebuild, there was a lot of hope. They sold us these, floating on a cloud dreams. You know what I mean? And we were all pretty excited about it. I know you and I, Ian, when we first started podcasting together years ago, we're feeling pretty good about where the White Sox were going. And I know we were not the only ones. And it's unfortunate that none of that materialized the way we had hoped for. So, again, shout out to Chris Getz and doing the things that he's doing and fixing the organization first. And then, getting up to speed on adding more staff and adding more tech and, maybe even helping convince MLB that they should be hoping to pay for the tech or limiting what teams can spend on tech that just come out this year and making sure that everybody's on a even playing field when it comes to that kind of thing. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just it's cool to see the direction of the ball club now. I just hope that we're not getting set up for disappointment again. But I think the structural changes within the organization are probably a better direction than we've ever been in before. So that gives me a little bit of hope and a little bit less pause. But yeah, it's about that time. I think if you guys, Jake, you've already given us a hot take. Ian, do you have a hot take or a heater for us before we sign out tonight?
Not really. I had a complaint.
Okay, good enough for me. Again, my hot take was pretty much exactly my take on this whole thing. Is it just sucks that we have an owner that refuses to spend any money, and I know now's not the time to actually do that. But the fact remains that it has now been 45 years of ownership, and we saw one, substantial contract signed in Albert Bell back in the day, and he traded that contract away a year later. So really, what is that?
Released.
Yeah, right, so right, released a year later. So what does that really
Catch and
say
release.
about that? I don't know, man. It's just I can't wait for the Ishbia regime to kind of rear its head and see where that goes. And who knows? It might not be anything what we expect it to be, but if what his brother is doing over there in Phoenix is any indication, I think we will probably be a little bit happier as Sox fans. results still remain, but we'll see how that goes. So, what do you guys think? Should we put a bow on it? Nothing left? All right, cool. Well, as always, we would like to thank our chatters this evening. You guys have been absolutely amazing. Shout out to Emiliano for multiple super chats tonight. We always appreciate the support. Again, if you cannot financially support us, please go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. That will help us. Pardon me, I'm a little sick, so that will help us with the algorithms and views. Tell a friend if you guys like the content. Get some drive some traffic over here. We appreciate that. If you like our written content, we do have that stuff over at FutureSox.net, and there's also some exclusive stuff for a small Patreon donation. A couple of shows every week. You'll see us, Hot Takes and Heaters, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. You'll also see Ian and James on Sunday evenings, as well as the Future Sox Roundup with Elijah, Dylan, and I guess Jeff is kind of in and out these days. But
Sometimes.
yeah, but you guys can check that out as well. Again, we appreciate y'all. Our merch is now available. You should see that on the channel as we speak. Go ahead and check that out. And as always, until next time, go White Sox.